And that's about all I have to say about that, so without further ado, let me pass it to Mike.
All right, let's get started. As I mentioned earlier, SketchUp is intended to be an easy-to-use drawing program. Let's start with the pencil tool. There are actually two different ways to draw a line in SketchUp using the pencil tool, and those two ways of drawing lines illustrate the two most primary drawing methods when using a mouse or trackpad in SketchUp. Take the pencil tool. The first way to draw a line is to click and hold down on the left mouse button, then drag the mouse, and then let go of the mouse button. So again, click and hold down, drag the mouse, and then release, and you'll see that you've got a line. This method of using the pencil tool is called click, drag, release, or click, drag. For the most part in SketchUp, don't do that. The preferred method for drawing a line is to take the pencil tool, click and release the mouse button, then move the mouse, and then click again to set the other point. You should see a rubber band line attached to the cursor. That's going to let you continue to draw more line segments with a single click. Then move the mouse, and then click, and then move the mouse. This method of using the mouse is called click, move, click, or click, move. To get rid of the rubber band line, you can hit the Escape key on your keyboard. Hit the Escape key on your keyboard and the rubber band line goes away. Now you can start a new line, and again, remember click, move, click. So click and release the mouse button, and then move the mouse, and then click again and release the mouse button again to set the next point. So you've got click, drag, and click, move, click. And click, move, click is the preferred method of doing just about everything in SketchUp. SketchUp has an unlimited number of undo and redo options. You can undo using the undo back arrow or typing Ctrl-Z or Apple Z on the Mac. Go ahead and undo all the way back to the beginning of the file until you are back to a clean white screen.
Here's a note that's going to help you out a lot early on in the program. The Escape key undoes an operation already in progress. The Undo key will undo the last step you've completed. So let's say I drew a line and I wanted to undo it. All I have to do is click on the red undo button and the line will go away. However, let's say that I started drawing a second line and I wanted to undo the operation in progress. You'll see there's a rubber band line attached here to the cursor. If I want to get rid of that rubber band line or cancel an operation in progress, I just hit the Escape key and that line will go away. This pretty much works for every tool in SketchUp, but don't worry, Mike and I are going to remind you about it all throughout the lessons.
Again, take the pencil tool. We'll start by drawing the most basic surface, a triangle. Start on the top left corner of your screen and draw a line over in the red direction. In SketchUp, you will see that when you start a new file, there are two axes, a red axis and a green axis. When you are drawing a line and that line gets to where it's close to being parallel to an axis, the line snaps, changes color, and you'll see a little pop-up window that says on red axis when you're in the red direction or on green axis when you're in the green direction. Draw over in the red direction, then click, and then start drawing down in the green direction. Down in the very bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see what's called the value control box. The value control box is a feedback loop that's giving you information about what it is that's going on in SketchUp at any given time. In this case, we're drawing a line, so the value control box is giving us information about the length of that line. In SketchUp, if you want to be accurate or precise about a dimension, you can enter the dimension simply by typing it in on your computer. You don't ever have to click in the value control box. To make the line 12 feet, just type in the number 12, followed by the foot tick or apostrophe, and then hit enter. And remember, there is no need to click in the value control box. If you cannot see the value control box on your screen, try clicking on the Maximize Screen button here at the top right corner of the SketchUp window. On a Mac, you can click on the green circle at the top left of the SketchUp window. Now draw back over in the red direction until you get to right about where you're underneath the first point, where you'll see a dashed green line. The dashed green line is an inference line. If you hover over the top midpoint, don't click on it, just hover over the top midpoint for a second, then pull away from that midpoint, you'll see another green inference line. If you hover over the right midpoint, again, don't click on it, just hover over it, then pull away from the right midpoint, you'll see a red inference line. The inference lines will change color depending on which axes you are aligned to. Now draw back up to that very first endpoint. In SketchUp, whenever you have a closed loop of coplanar edges, the surface will automatically fill in. What that means is that when a series of edges are drawn precisely from endpoint to endpoint, so they all meet up perfectly at the corners, and all of the points are drawn in the same plane, the surface will automatically fill in. In order to turn this triangle into a rectangle, click again on that very first point and start drawing down in the green direction until you see the dashed red inference line. Once you see both inferences at the same time, click and draw over to the bottom right corner of the triangle. Next, take the eraser tool and erase the diagonal line. Then, take the eraser tool and try to erase the surface. In SketchUp, in order to erase the surface, you need to right-click on that surface and select the option for Erase. If you're on a Mac and you don't have a 3-button mouse, you can get this extra menu if you hold down Control and click. In order to get the surface back, take the pencil tool and retrace over any one of the existing edges from endpoint to endpoint, and that surface will fill back in. The technical term for filling in the surface is called healing a surface. You might be asking yourself whether there will now be 2 lines there. The answer is no. There is still only 1 line. We will talk more in later sections about why that is. This time, take the eraser tool and erase an edge. You can simply click on an edge to erase it. Notice that both the edge and the surface are erased. In order to get that surface back, take the pencil tool and redraw from endpoint to endpoint, and the surface will fill back in. The basic idea here is that you don't need to have surfaces in order to have edges. You can have edges all by themselves, no problem. But you do need to have all of the edges that define the perimeter of a surface in order for that surface to fill in. In order to turn this rectangle back into a triangle, take the pencil tool and redraw the diagonal line across the rectangle. Then take the eraser tool and erase the left edge and the bottom edge. Let's go ahead and start a new file. On a PC, you have a little white Page tab up at the top left of your screen that you can click on to start a new file. On a Mac, you'll first want to close the current file that you are working on. The keyboard shortcut to close the current file is Apple W, and to start a new file, the keyboard shortcut is Apple N. We won't be saving these files for these lessons, so it's up to you whether you want to save your work for future reference.